The heavy wooden door swung shut behind the last delivery driver, cutting off the cool evening air and sealing the restaurant inside a bubble of noise and heat. It was a typical Tuesday night, the kind that felt like it would never end. The air inside smelled strongly of roasted garlic, brewing coffee, and the faint, sweet scent of vanilla that drifted up from the dessert station. In the center of it all was Anna. She was 24, though her eyes looked a little older tonight, shadowed by the fatigue of a double shift. Anna moved between the tables with a practiced rhythm. It was a dance she knew well. Balance the heavy tray in the left hand, swoop in to clear the dirty plates with the right, drop off the check, and offer a smile that didn't quite reach her tired eyes. She was dressed like everyone else on the floor, a crisp, white button-down shirt, a black apron tied tightly around her waist, and non-slip shoes that had seen better days. To the people sitting in the velvet booths, she was just part of the furniture. She was the person who brought the water and took the orders, face that blurred into the background of their evening out. The restaurant was busy, but not packed. It was that awkward time of night when the dinner rush was fading, but the cleanup hadn't truly begun. A group of businessmen in the corner laughed loudly over half-empty glasses of red wine, celebrating a deal they had just closed. Near the window, a young couple sat in silence, the glow of their phone screens illuminating their faces more than the candle on the table did. They were the kind of customers who barely looked up when the food arrived. Treating Anna like a vending machine rather than a person, Anna walked over to table 7 to refill their water glasses. As she leaned over, the man glanced up, annoyed by the interruption. "Still waiting on the dessert menu," he said, not bothering to say thank you. "It's right here on the table, sir," Anna said gently, pointing to the small folded card between the salt and pepper shakers. She had told him this 10 minutes ago, but she didn't argue. "Can I get you anything else while you decide?" The man just grunted and looked back down at his phone. Anna sighed very softly, a sound that was lost immediately in the clatter of the kitchen. She turned and headed back toward the service station, her feet aching. She had been on her feet for 9 hours. Her lower back throbbed with a dull, constant ache, and a headache was beginning to tighten behind her eyes. Behind the counter, her coworker, Dave, was frantically trying to organize a pile of tickets. "Hey, can you take table 12? Dave asked, sounding stressed. "I'm drowning in the weeds back here," Anna nodded without hesitation. "I got it." She grabbed an order pad and walked toward table 12. It was a family of 4. The kids were restless, spilling crayons onto the floor, and the parents looked exhausted. Anna put on her customer service voice, bright, cheerful, and helpful. She took their order, making sure to note that the youngest child was allergic to dairy. It was a small detail, but she knew it mattered. She treated them with kindness. Even though her own energy was fading fast, while she waited for the food to come up from the kitchen, Anna leaned against the back wall for a moment, taking a rare second to just breathe. From this spot in the corner, she could see the entire room. Her eyes drifted across the space, past the busy bar and the crowded booths, until they landed on the grand piano. It sat in the far corner of the dining room, bathed in a soft yellow light from a pendant lamp hanging above it. It was a beautiful instrument, polished to a high shine with a glossy black finish. But tonight, like most nights, it was silent. It was mostly for decoration, a prop to make the place look fancy. On weekends, they hired a guy named Steve to play jazz standards, but tonight, the piano sat empty. Its lid was closed, protecting the keys from dust and spills. Anna stared at it. She felt a strange pull in her chest, a longing that she tried to ignore. It had been a long time since she had really played. Years, actually. Life had a way of getting in the way of dreams, pushing them down until they were buried under bills, rent, and the need to survive. She remembered what it used to feel like, the weight of the keys under her fingers, the vibration of the strings humming through the floorboards, the way the music could block out the entire world. When she played, she didn't have to worry about tips or rude customers or rent payments. She was free. But that was a different lifetime. Now her hands were rough from handling dishware and scrubbing tables. She wondered if she could even play a simple scale anymore, let alone a song. "Anna, table 9 is up," the chef yelled from the window, snapping her out of her daydream. She shook her head, clearing the thoughts away. "Coming," she called back. She pushed off the wall and grabbed the plates. The food was heavy and hot. She navigated the narrow maze of tables, dodging a busboy with a bin full of dirty dishes. As she served the meal's steaming pasta and sizzling steaks, she fell back into her role. She was the invisible servant, the helpful ghost who made sure the wine glasses were full and the bread baskets were replenished. No one at table 9 looked at her face. They looked at the food. They mumbled thanks and immediately started eating. Anna checked on them one last time and then stepped away, wiping her hands on her apron. It was a lonely feeling, being surrounded by people but feeling completely unseen. She wondered if any of them had any idea who she really was, or what she used to be capable of. A few tables away, an older gentleman sat alone. He was a regular, someone who came in a few times a week. He always sat in the same spot where he could watch the room. He was reading a book and sipping a cup of black coffee. He had watched Anna all night. He noticed how efficient she was, how she treated the grumpy businessman at table 7 with patience, and how she smiled at the kids at table 12. But he also noticed the way she looked at the piano when she thought no one was watching. It was a look of deep sadness and deep love, all mixed together. The restaurant began to quiet down. The businessmen at table 7 finally paid their bill and left, laughing loudly as they walked out the door. The family with the kids gathered their things and left a small tip on the table. The couple by the window finished their coffee and headed out. Soon the room was mostly empty. The only sound was the clinking of silverware being stacked in the kitchen and the hum of the refrigerator. The staff began the side work, wiping down tables, rolling silverware into napkins, and sweeping the floors. Anna walked over to the older gentleman's table. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" she asked. "Another refill, perhaps." The old man closed his book and looked up at her. He had kind, crinkly eyes and a gentle face. He looked at the piano in the corner, then back at Anna. "The night is winding down," he said softly. "It seems a shame to leave that beautiful thing sitting there in the dark." Anna glanced over at it again, then shrugged self-consciously. "It looks nice, doesn't it?" "Adds to the atmosphere," the man agreed. He paused for a moment, studying her face. "I have a feeling you know more about that instrument than just how it looks, young lady." Anna laughed nervously, looking down at her shoes. "Oh no, I like looking at it. It's nice to have something pretty in the room." The man smiled, sensing her hesitation. He didn't want to push, but he had a strong feeling about her. He saw the calluses on her fingertips, not the rough kind from labor, but the kind that came from pressing strings and striking keys. He saw the way her hands moved when she placed the silverware, with a grace that most waitresses didn't have. "Well," he said, leaning back in his chair, "the coffee is good, but I think a little music would be better. Especially on a night this quiet." Anna forced a polite smile. "I think the manager would prefer we stick to cleaning up, sir. I really should get back to work." "Of course," he said, raising his hands in surrender. "I didn't mean to keep you." She gave him a small nod and turned away, walking back toward the kitchen to drop off some dirty glasses. Her heart was beating a little faster than before. She felt exposed, as if the stranger had seen right through her uniform and into the past she tried to keep hidden. She walked into the kitchen, the noise of the dishes and the clatter of pots welcoming her back into the reality of her shift. But as she scrubbed a plate clean, her mind wandered back to the corner, to the silent black piano, and the gentle challenge in the old man's eyes. She didn't know it yet, but her ordinary night was about to take a very different turn. Anna wiped her hands on a towel and stepped out of the kitchen, letting the heavy swing door close behind her. The dining room felt different now. It was past 9 o'clock, and the chaotic energy of the dinner rush had drained away, leaving the space feeling quiet and a little bit empty. The harsh lights were dimmed, casting long, soft shadows across the floor. Most of the tables were cleared off. The chairs flipped upside down so the vacuum cleaner could reach the crumbs later. She walked over to the station, where she kept her water pitcher and checkbook. Her feet felt heavy, like she was wearing lead boots. All she wanted to do was finish her side work, count her tips, and go home. There was a bus to catch, and then a cold apartment waiting for her. But as she passed through the room, she felt eyes on her. The older gentleman was still there. He was the only customer left in the front section. He was slowly sipping the last of his coffee, watching her with a calm, patient expression. Anna gave him a polite nod and moved to clear a table nearby, trying to look busy so he wouldn't try to start a conversation again. She wasn't in the mood for talking. She just wanted to disappear. She picked up a stack of plates and turned back toward the kitchen, but his voice stopped her. "It seems like such a waste," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet room, it carried easily. Anna paused. She turned around slowly, forcing a tired smile onto her face. "I'm sorry, sir." "What is a waste?" He pointed a finger toward the back of the room, toward the large black shape sitting in the corner. "That piano. It's been sitting there silent for 2 hours. It feels lonely, doesn't it? Like a bird in a cage that forgot how to sing?" Anna looked over at the instrument. It really was beautiful. The wood gleamed under the spotlight, and the brass pedals shone like gold. She remembered the smell of it, the scent of dust and felt and old wood. It brought back a sudden sharp memory of being a little girl, sitting on a bench that was too high for her feet to touch the ground. She remembered the sense of power she felt when her hands pressed down on the keys and a loud, beautiful sound came out. She looked back at the old man and shrugged. "It's just for decoration, mostly. We have a guy who comes in on weekends, but tonight it's just sitting there." "Doesn't have to be just sitting there," the man said. He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table. "I bet you know a few songs, don't you?" Anna felt her face get hot. She looked away, focusing on a smudge on the table she was wiping. "Oh, no, not me. I haven't played in years. I'm terrible now, really. My fingers are stiff." "I doubt that," he said gently. "Musicians don't forget how to speak. They just get quiet for a while." "Please," Anna said, her voice tightening a little. She didn't want to be rude, but she also didn't want to be teased about something that used to mean everything to her. It hurt too much to think about it. "I'm just a waitress. I'm really tired and I have a lot of cleaning to do." The man didn't say anything for a moment. He just looked at her with kind eyes. "You know, my wife played," he said softly. "She passed away 3 years ago. She used to say that music was the only thing that could truly fix a bad day. She said, if you have a gift, you shouldn't hide it under a bushel." Anna stopped wiping the table. Her heart softened. She hadn't expected him to say something so personal. She looked at his face and saw the sadness there, hidden under his friendly smile. He wasn't just a customer bothering her. He was a lonely man, remembering someone he loved. "I'm sorry about your wife," she said quietly. "It's okay," he said. "But every time I see a piano, I think of her. And tonight, looking at you, I don't know. I just have a feeling." "Humor an old man? Just one song? It doesn't have to be fancy." Anna bit her lip. She looked around the restaurant. Dave, the manager, was behind the bar counting the cash drawer. The cook was in the back, banging pans around. There was no one else to impress, no one to judge her. What was the harm? She looked at the piano again. It seemed to be calling to her. Her fingers twitched slightly at her sides, remembering the muscle memory she thought she had lost. She was exhausted, her feet hurt, and she had 100 reasons to say no. But for some reason, the word yes was stuck in her throat. "I don't even know if I can remember anything," she stammered. "Just play what you feel," the man said. "Even if it's just Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, I just want to hear it." Anna took a deep breath and let it out slowly. She looked over at the bar and caught Dave's eye. She gestured toward the piano with a questioning look on her face. Dave looked up, surprised. He looked at the old man, then at the clock on the wall. "Oh, If I can, we have a God, I'm God, long night anyway. Knock yourself out. Yana felt a lump form in her throat. She walked slowly toward the corner of the room. It felt like a long walk, like she was walking toward a cliff edge. With every step, her heart beat a little faster. She felt exposed, like she was taking off her uniform and standing there in her bare skin. She was revealing a secret part of herself that she kept locked away for her own protection. She reached the piano and stood there for a moment. It looked bigger up close. She reached out and touched the smooth, cool wood. It felt familiar. It felt like coming home after a very long trip. She pulled out the bench and sat down. The bench creaked under her weight. She felt small again, like that little girl in her old living room. She placed her hands on her knees, her palms sweating. She looked out at the room. The old man was watching her, waiting. David stopped counting money and was looking over to Anna, took a deep breath. She thought about the long shift she had just finished. She thought about the rude customers, the tips she didn't get, and the heavy weight of her rent. She thought about the old man's wife and the music she used to play. She decided she didn't want to play a fancy classical piece. She wanted to play something that felt real. Slowly, she lifted her hands. Her fingers hovered over the keys for a split second, trembling just a little. Then, she let them drop. The first chord she struck wasn't perfect. It was a little heavy, a little rusty. But the sound that filled the room was rich and full. The vibration traveled up her arms and into her shoulders, instantly relaxing her tight muscles. It felt like waking up. She paused, surprised by the sound. Then, without really thinking about it, her left hand found a rhythm, a steady heartbeat pulse on the lower keys. Her right hand began to wander, picking out a melody that was sad but sweet. It wasn't a famous song. It was something she was making up right there, a mix of all the feelings she had kept inside all day. The notes flowed out of her, slowly at first, then getting faster. The fatigue in her body seemed to drain out through her fingers and into the piano keys. She closed her eyes. She forgot she was in a restaurant. She forgot she was wearing an apron. She forgot about the dirty dishes waiting for her in the kitchen. For the first time in years, she wasn't Anna the waitress. She was just a person making music. The old man sat very still, his coffee cup halfway to his lips, forgotten. The smile on his face was gentle and genuine. He closed his eyes too, just listening to the notes float through the air. It was a beautiful sound, raw and unpolished, but full of soul. Dave leaned against the bar, his arms crossed, listening with a look of pure amazement on his face. He had heard her humming in the break room before, but he had no idea she could play like that. It was like a different person had sat down on the bench. The music swelled, filling the empty corners of the room, chasing away the shadows. It was a sound that demanded to be heard, a hidden talent finally seeing the light of day. Anna didn't want it to end, but as the song reached its peak, she felt her fingers beginning to cramp. She was out of practice. She couldn't hold it forever. She guided the melody down, softer and softer, playing a few final gentle chords that faded into silence. She held her hands hovering over the keys for a moment, letting the very last vibration die away. The room was dead quiet. Anna sat there, her breathing heavy, her eyes still closed. She waited for the awkward silence that usually followed, the sound of people going back to their own business. But the silence didn't feel awkward this time. It felt heavy, like the air was charged with electricity. Slowly, she opened her eyes and pulled her hands back into her lap. She looked out at the dining room, feeling a sudden wave of embarrassment crash over her. What had she just done? She stood up quickly, smoothing down her apron, ready to grab her bucket and run back to the safety of the kitchen. But before she could move, the old man began to clap. It started slow, just the sound of two palms hitting together, but then Dave joined in from the bar. Even the cook had poked his head out of the kitchen window and was clapping along. Anna stood there, frozen, her face turning bright red. She felt like crying, not because she was sad, but because she felt seen. Really, truly seen. The sound of the applause was soft at first, just the old man clapping his wrinkled hands together in a steady rhythm. Then Dave joined in from behind the bar, adding a sharp whistle that pierced the quiet air. Even the dishwasher, a guy named Tony, who rarely came out of the back, stuck his head through the service window and banged a metal spoon against a metal pot rim in approval. Anna stood there in the center of the spotlight, her face burning with a heat that had nothing to do with the restaurant lamps. She felt exposed, like she had just walked out onto a stage without her clothes on. Her instinct was to run. For years, she had made herself invisible, hiding behind her uniform and her notepad, trying to be just another part of the background. Now, all eyes were on her, and she felt a sudden wave of panic mixed with the adrenaline. She looked down at her hands, half expecting them to look different somehow. They were the same hands that had scrubbed tables and carried heavy trays all night. But for a few minutes, they had created something beautiful. It felt like waking up from a vivid dream and realizing you were still standing in your messy bedroom. "Thank you," she whispered, but her voice was too quiet to hear. She cleared her throat and tried again, forcing a smile that felt shaky and unfamiliar. "Thank you. I haven't done that in a long time." "You haven't forgotten a thing," the old man called out. He had put his book down on the table and was looking at her with something like wonder. "That was the most beautiful thing I've heard in this city in years." Anna didn't know what to say to that. She just nodded quickly, feeling her eyes start to water. She turned back to the piano bench to grab the rag she had tucked there earlier, needing something to do with her hands. But as she looked at the keys, a strange sensation washed over her. The fear was starting to fade, replaced by a buzzing feeling in her fingertips. The song she had played was simple, made up on the spot. But it had woken something up inside her that she thought was dead. She looked at Dave. He was leaning against the bar, his arms crossed, a huge grin splitting his face. "Anna," he said, walking out from behind the counter, "why didn't you tell us you could play like that?" "I've been hiring that guy Steve for months, and he sounds like a broken robot compared to you." Anna laughed, a nervous but genuine sound. "I didn't think it mattered. I'm here to work, not to play. Does it matter?" Dave shook his head. "Are you kidding? You've been holding out on us." Anna looked back at the piano. The lid was still open, exposing the strings and hammers inside. It looked like an open mouth, waiting to speak again. Her heart was still beating fast from the performance, but instead of wanting to run away, she felt a sudden urge to sit back down. The fear of being judged was still there, whispering in the back of her mind, telling her she was rusty and out of practice. But the clapping had felt good. It had felt really good. She looked around the room. It was mostly empty, but there were a few people left. A couple in the corner who had been ignoring each other all night were now holding hands across the table listening. The old man was still watching her, his eyes encouraging. It was a safe space. There were no music critics here, no strict teachers telling her about her posture or her timing. It was just a restaurant late at night. "Do you know any?" the old man started, pausing to think. "Do you know any jazz?" "My wife loved jazz. She used to listen to old records while she cooked dinner on Sundays." Anna thought for a second. She closed her eyes and let her mind drift back to her apartment. She didn't have a piano there, but she had records. She had stacks of old vinyl that she had rescued from thrift stores. She'd listen to them when she cooked, too, humming along while she chopped vegetables. She knew the sound of a saxophone, the bounce of a bass, the lazy, rolling rhythm of a piano in a smoky bar. She looked at the keys again. Her left hand found its way to the lower notes, striking a deep, resonant chord. Then her right hand began to move, picking out a melody that was jaunty and bright. It wasn't a song she had practiced. It was a feeling. It was the sound of rain on a window pane and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. She sat back down on the bench. The moment she touched the keys again, the transformation happened. The slump in her shoulders disappeared. Her back straightened. The tired waitress vanished, replaced by a confident musician. She started to play a rhythm that made people want to tap their feet. It was a swing beat, loose and easy. She added a little flourish here, a trill there, her fingers dancing over the black and white ivory. She wasn't reading music. She was just following the sound in her head. Letting the music take her where it wanted to go, she played a few bars of a melody that sounded familiar, like a memory from a dream, then she twisted it into something new. She played fast, then slow, making the piano sing and sigh. She forgot about the audience. She forgot about the tips and the rent. She was just flying. The sound filled the room, bouncing off the walls and the ceiling. It was warm and inviting, chasing away the cold, sterile feeling of the restaurant. Even the air seemed to change, feeling lighter and charged with energy. Dave walked over to the old man's table and leaned in, speaking quietly. "I've never seen her like this," he said, nodding toward Anna. "She's usually so quiet. She keeps to herself." "She's in her element now," the old man said, not taking his eyes off Anna.
Our music does that.
"It strips away all the layers we put on for the world. Look at her face." Anna's face was peaceful. Her eyes were closed, her head tilted slightly to the side. She looked completely free. The lines of worry around her mouth were gone. For the first time all night, she wasn't worrying about dropping a plate or spilling a drink. She was just creating. The couple in the corner stood up slowly. Anna heard the movement and flinched for a second, thinking they were leaving because they hated the music. But they weren't leaving. They walked closer to the piano, pulling chairs up to sit nearby. They didn't say anything. They just wanted to be closer to the sound. It gave Anna a burst of courage. She took the melody higher, making it soar. She played with more force, putting her whole body into it. Her foot pressed down on the sustain pedal, holding the notes out so they blended together in a rich wash of sound. She felt powerful. It was a different kind of power than waiting tables. Serving people was about making them happy by taking their orders and cleaning up their messes. This was about connecting with them without saying a word. It was raw and honest. She thought about the conservatory she had attended so briefly. She remembered the pressure, the feeling that she wasn't good enough, the fear of failing. She realized now that the pressure had killed the joy for her. She had been so focused on being perfect that she forgot how to love the music. Sitting here in this random restaurant on a Tuesday night, wearing a stained apron, she finally remembered why she had started playing in the first place. It wasn't to win competitions or get a degree. It was because it made her feel like her heart had a voice. The song she was playing began to slow down. The energy shifted from high energy to something smooth and romantic. She played a series of gentle, cascading notes that trickled down like water. She ended with a soft final chord that she let ring out until the sound was just a whisper in the air. She opened her eyes. The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was full. It was heavy with emotion. The couple at the nearby table looked at each other and smiled. A genuine, loving smile that hadn't been there all night. The old man was dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief. Dave was just shaking his head in disbelief. Anna let out a long breath, her shoulders dropping as she came back to reality. Her hands were trembling slightly again, but this time it was from the effort of playing, not from fear. She looked around the room, blinking like she was waking up from a deep sleep. She saw the looks on their faces, the appreciation, the surprise, the joy. She didn't feel invisible anymore. She felt seen. "Wow," she breathed, the word barely audible. She looked down at her hands again, expecting them to look strange, but they just looked like her hands. Rough, working hands. But now she knew they could do more than just carry trays. They could paint pictures in the air. They could make people feel things. And suddenly, the future didn't look quite so heavy. The final chord of the jazz piece seemed to hang in the air like smoke, refusing to disappear. Anna sat on the bench, her hands resting lightly on the keys, listening to the sound fade into silence. Her breathing was shallow, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. For a moment, she didn't move. She was afraid that if she moved, the spell would break, and she would just be a tired waitress in a wrinkled uniform again. But then the sound of applause broke the quiet. It wasn't just polite clapping this time. It was enthusiastic. The couple near the window was clapping loudly, and the woman was wiping a tear from her eye. The old man was beaming, clapping his hands together with a steady rhythm. Even the kitchen staff had come out into the dining room, standing in a cluster by the service station, watching her with wide eyes. Anna felt her face turn red, a deep blush that spread all the way to her ears. She quickly stood up, the force of the movement making the bench scrape loudly against the floor. She smoothed down her apron, trying to find a way to hide, but there was nowhere to go. "That was truly magnificent," the old man said, his voice trembling slightly. "I haven't heard anything like that in years. You have a gift, a rare and beautiful gift." "Thank you," Anna whispered. She looked at her feet, feeling shy and exposed. "I was just messing around. I'm a bit rusty." "Rusty?" Dave called out from the bar. He walked over, shaking his head in disbelief. "Anna, if that's rusty, I'd hate to hear what you sound like when you're polished. That was incredible. Why have you been hiding this from us?" Anna shrugged, looking around the room. "I don't know. Music was just something I used to do. I had to stop, and life got busy. It felt like a dream I had a long time ago." "Well, it's not a dream anymore," Dave said. He looked at the few tables left in the restaurant. "Hey everyone, give her a real hand. That's Anna, our waitress." The room erupted in cheers and whistles. Anna laughed, a nervous but happy sound. She felt a strange sensation in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the kitchen heat. It was the feeling of being accepted, of being valued for something other than how fast she could carry a tray. Suddenly, the woman from the couple near the window stood up. She was young, maybe in her early 30s, dressed in office clothes. She reached into her purse and pulled out her smartphone. "I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude," the woman said, looking at Anna with eager eyes. "But do you mind if I record you playing just one more song? My brother is a musician, and he's going through a really hard time right now. He feels like giving up. I feel like if he saw you, just a regular person playing with so much soul, well, I think it would give him hope. Is that okay?" Anna froze. Being recorded was a scary thought. She worried about looking bad, about people criticizing her technique online. But then she looked at the woman's face. She saw the sincerity there. This wasn't about going viral or getting famous. It was about sharing something real, Anna said slowly. "But don't make me look too silly. I still have my apron on." The woman laughed. "You look great. You look real." Anna sat back down on the bench. The cushion felt familiar now. She took a deep breath and looked at the keys. She thought about what to play. She wanted to play something hopeful. She closed her eyes and let her fingers find the notes. She started to play a melody that was uplifting and bright. It was a song about resilience, about getting back up when you fall. As she played, she saw the woman holding the phone up, recording every note. For a second, Anna felt a flash of self-consciousness, but then she let it go. She focused on the music, on the feeling of the keys beneath her fingers. She played with more confidence now. The fear was gone, replaced by a sense of purpose. She wasn't just playing for herself anymore. She was playing for the woman, for her brother, for the old man who missed his wife, and for Dave, who worked so hard every day. She was playing for everyone who ever felt like they had to hide a part of themselves to fit in. The music filled the room, swirling around the tables and the chairs. It was a sound that demanded attention. The couple swayed gently to the rhythm. The old man closed his eyes, a peaceful smile on his face. Anna's hands moved across the keys with a grace that surprised her. She hit a wrong note here and there, tiny stumble, but she didn't stop. She didn't flinch. She just kept going, turning the mistake into part of the song. It was perfect because it was real. As she reached the climax of the song, she poured all her energy into it. Her body swayed with the music, her hair falling out of its messy bun. She wasn't Anna the waitress anymore. She wasn't the tired girl with the sore feet. She was a musician, sharing her soul with the world. She ended the song with a soft, gentle flourish, letting the last note linger in the air before fading away. She opened her eyes and looked around. The woman with the phone was lowering the device, her eyes shining with tears. She immediately pressed a few buttons on the screen. "I'm sending this to him right now," she said to Anna. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Anna nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. She stood up again, feeling a little dizzy. It had been a long time since she had put that much emotion into anything. "You really should play more often," the old man said, standing up slowly and gathering his coat. "The world needs more of that. Don't hide it away." He walked over to the table and left a cash tip on the table. It was more than he needed to pay for the coffee. He smiled at Anna one last time and walked out the door, the bell jingling softly behind him. The couple finished their drinks and left too, stopping to tell Anna how beautiful the music was. Soon, the restaurant was empty, except for Anna and Dave. The silence that settled over the room wasn't heavy or awkward anymore. It was a peaceful silence, the kind that comes after a storm has passed. Dave walked over to the piano, leaning against the side. "That was amazing, Anna. Truly." "Thanks, Dave," she said, starting to unbutton her cuffs. "It felt good. Really good." "You know," Dave said slowly, looking at the piano, "Steve, the weekend guy? He called in sick last week. Honestly, he's been thinking about quitting. He wants to tour with his band." Anna looked up, surprised. "Really? I didn't know that," Dave continued. "And honestly, listening to you tonight, you're better than him. You've got something he doesn't have. You feel the music. He just plays the notes." Anna didn't know what to say. She looked at the piano, then at her manager. "I don't have a degree, Dave. I haven't played professionally in a long time, so..." Dave shrugged. "The customers don't care about a piece of paper. They care about how they feel. And tonight, they felt great. I think you should think about taking over the weekend spot. Maybe just Saturday nights to start? We could work around your serving shifts if you want to keep doing some of that. Or you could just play." Anna's heart skipped a beat. A chance to play. A real chance, not just a dream. She looked at her hands again. They were trembling, but this time it was from excitement. "Saturday nights?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," Dave smiled. "Saturday nights. You'd be the main attraction. I'd pay you the musician rate, which is better than the server rate, plus tips. What do you think?" Anna looked around the empty restaurant. She thought about the rent, the bills, the long hard shifts on her feet. But mostly she thought about the music. She thought about the feeling of the keys and the look on the old man's face. She thought about the hope in the woman's eyes, and she recorded the video. She realized that she had been hiding for too long. She had been afraid to let herself shine because she thought she wasn't good enough. But tonight, she proved herself wrong. "I think," Anna said, a smile spreading across her face, "that I would like that very much." "Good," Dave said, clapping her on the shoulder. "It's a deal then. Now get out of here. You've had a long night. I'll finish up the cleaning. Are you sure, Dave?" "Positive," he said. "Go home, rest your hands. You've got a gig to get ready for." Anna grabbed her bag from the back room. As she walked out the front door, the cool night air hit her face. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs. She looked up at the city lights glowing in the dark sky. Everything looked different. The city seemed brighter, louder, more alive. She walked toward the bus stop, her footsteps lighter than they had been in years. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know if the video the woman took would go viral, and she didn't know if she would be a famous pianist one day. But for the first time in a long time, she wasn't worried about the future. She had her music back, and that was enough. As she waited for the bus, she hummed the melody of the last song she played, the tune dancing in the quiet night air. The bus pulled up, the doors hissing open. Anna stepped on, ready to go home and dream of keys and melodies. The hidden talent was finally revealed, and the world was a more beautiful place for it. The next morning, Anna woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. It was a jarring, mechanical noise that pulled her out of a deep, dreamless sleep. For a few seconds, she just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the familiar heaviness in her muscles that came after a double shift. She groaned and rolled over, expecting to see a text from Dave asking if she could cover a shift or a reminder about her electric bill. But when she grabbed the phone, the screen was flooded with notifications. She had dozens of missed calls, hundreds of text messages, and her social media apps were exploding with red alert bubbles. What in the world? she muttered. Rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she sat up in bed, her heart beating a little faster. She clicked on one of the messages. It was from her cousin who lived in another state. Anna, is that you in this video? You're famous. Check the newsfeed. Anna frowned. She remembered the woman from the restaurant the night before, the one who asked to record a song for her brother. Anna had agreed, thinking it would just be a small video shared with a family member. She didn't think much of it after she left. With trembling fingers, she clicked on the link her cousin sent. The video loaded, and suddenly she was staring at herself sitting at the grand piano in the corner of the restaurant. The video was a bit shaky, clearly filmed on a phone, but the audio was surprisingly good. She watched the screen, seeing herself close her eyes and take a deep breath before her hands began to move. The sound filled her small, quiet bedroom. It was the jazz song, the one about resilience. Watching it back, Anna felt a strange mix of embarrassment and pride. She saw the way her body swayed with the music, the look of peace on her face. She saw the old man in the background, wiping his eyes with a napkin. She saw Dave standing by the bar, looking amazed. But what shocked her the most was the view count. The video had been posted just 8 hours ago, and it already had 2 million views. The comment section was scrolling so fast, she could barely read them. Who is this girl? She has so much soul. I cried watching this. It's been a hard year, and this gave me hope. She's not just a waitress, she's a magician. Please tell me she plays professionally. I need to hear more. Anna dropped the phone onto her lap as if it had burned her. 2 million views? It felt impossible. Just yesterday, she was invisible, a ghost in a black apron clearing tables. Now, she was trending on the internet. She spent the rest of the morning in a daze. She called Dave, who answered on the first ring. Did you see it? Dave asked, his voice loud with excitement. Anna, the phone has been ringing off the hook all morning. People want to book you. Record labels, local news stations, other restaurants. They all want the piano waitress. Is this real? Anna asked, pacing around her small living room. Is this actually happening? It's real, kid, Dave said. That video struck a nerve. People love a story about a hidden talent. It makes them feel like anything is possible. And besides that, you're actually good. Like really good. That Saturday, the restaurant was packed. It wasn't the usual crowd of tired businessmen and couples on dates. The line went out the door and wrapped around the block. People had come to see her. Anna stood in the back office staring at herself in the mirror. She was wearing her uniform, but Dave had told her she could wear something different if she wanted. He had even offered to buy her a dress. But Anna looked at the white shirt and black apron and shook her head. This was who she was. She didn't want to pretend to be a glamorous star in a sequin gown. She wanted to be Anna, the girl who worked hard and loved music. She walked out into the dining room. The noise level was intense. Every table was full, and the air buzzed with excitement. When people saw her, a ripple of whispers went through the crowd. Phones were raised, cameras pointed in her direction. She felt a moment of sheer panic. Her knees felt weak and her stomach turned over. What if she choked? What if the magic from last Tuesday was gone? What if they hated it? She walked over to the piano. It had been polished until it gleamed, and a small vase of flowers sat on top. She sat down on the bench and took a deep breath. The room went silent. It was the same silence she had heard before, but heavier this time. Millions of people were watching online, either live or waiting for the next clip. She looked out into the crowd. She saw the old man sitting in his usual spot. He gave her a thumbs up and a warm nod. She saw Dave by the bar, looking nervous but proud. She saw the young woman who had filmed the video sitting with her brother, who looked tired but was smiling. Anna realized something important. She wasn't playing for fame. She wasn't playing for views. She was playing for the people in that room and for herself. She closed her eyes, blocking out the cameras and the lights, and let her hands find the keys. She started to play. It was a classical piece this time, complicated and fast. Her fingers flew across the ivory keys, a blur of motion. The music was powerful and loud, filling every corner of the restaurant. It was a sound of defiance, a statement that she was here and she wasn't going to hide anymore. As she played, she felt the fear melt away. The connection was back. She could feel the audience holding their breath. She could feel the energy in the room shift. It wasn't just a performance. It was a conversation. She was telling them her story without saying a word. She played for an hour that night, only stopping when her hands truly began to ache. When she played the final note, the silence lasted for a heartbeat before the room exploded. It was the loudest applause she had ever heard. People stood up, some cheering, some crying. The old man blew her a kiss. Anna stood up and bowed. It was a clumsy bow, but it was genuine. She looked at her hands, then out at the crowd. She was smiling a real smile, one that reached her eyes, in the weeks that followed. Life changed for Anna, but not in the way she expected. She didn't become a superstar celebrity overnight. She didn't move to a mansion in Hollywood. But the restaurant offered her a permanent residency as their head pianist for the weekend nights. They paid her well, more than she ever made serving tables. She started giving piano lessons to local kids, using the money to fix up her apartment and buy a decent used piano for her living room. The video continued to circulate online, bringing in requests for private gigs at parties and weddings. She even started writing her own music again, something she hadn't done since she was a student. But the biggest change wasn't the money or the attention. It was how she felt when she walked down the street. She didn't look at the ground anymore. She didn't try to make herself small. She walked with her head up, feeling the rhythm of the city in her step. One evening, a few months later, Anna was packing up her sheet music after a show. A young girl, maybe 10 years old, came up to the piano shyly. She was holding a program and looked nervous. "Excuse me?" The girl squeaked. Anna knelt down so she was eye level with her. "Hi there. Did you like the music?" The girl nodded vigorously. "It was the best thing I ever heard. I take lessons, but I hate practicing. My mom says I have to, but I just want to quit. It's too hard." Anna smiled gently. She thought about all the years she had spent away from the piano, hiding her talent, and how much she regretted the time she lost. "It is hard," Anna said softly. "Sometimes your fingers hurt, and sometimes you feel like you aren't getting any better. But you know what? You have a secret inside you. A voice that only comes out when you play. If you quit, you keep that secret locked up forever. And the world needs to hear your song, just like it needed to hear mine." The girl looked at Anna with wide eyes, absorbing her words. "Do you think I could be good like you someday?" "I think you could be even better," Anna said, handing the girl a signed napkin. "Just promise me you won't give up." The girl took the napkin and grinned, running back to her parents. Anna stood up and shouldered her bag. She looked around the restaurant. It was late, and the cleaning crew was starting to wipe down the tables. The old man wasn't there tonight. He had gone to visit family out of state, but he had sent her a card earlier that week wishing her luck. Anna walked to the door, her footsteps light. She pushed it open and stepped out into the cool night air. The city was loud and bright, but she didn't mind. She was Anna, the waitress, the pianist, the teacher. She was no longer a hidden talent. She was seen, she was heard, and she was finally, truly free. As she walked toward the bus stop, she hummed a new melody, one that she had just started writing earlier that day. It was a happy tune, full of promise and hope, and it played in her heart all the way home.